Welcome back to another episode of Life's Ambition Podcast. Today we are joined by someone who embraces challenge. She comes from the world of transformation leadership. Without further ado, Nicole Wood. Nicole, how are we doing today?
Good, Drew. How are you?
I'm doing great. Obviously we have our 12 seasons of North Carolina and we're in season 3, I guess, of winter. It's been something special, but how's everything been on your end in terms of life, mentoring, all that kind of stuff?
It's been good. And Drew, you mentioned the 3 seasons of winter. Now is the yellow season.
Woo!
Season of pollen.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of things on my feed where it's like the Yellow song from Coldplay, and it's just everything blossoming pollen, and then it's cars, everything is yellow, sidewalks, all that stuff. And some of the people I see at work, they look so red in the face, like they're just sick, but they're like, I promise I'm okay, in the smoker's voice.
Yep. I thought you were going to say they look jaundiced because everybody's just a shade of yellow.
Yeah. Oh man. I know my mom, she gets these allergies every season and she has to get these shots. I think it's every month or every few months just to help her out. And so I think it's always funny, but I'd love to kind of get into more conversation about you and understand the business development side of one's career. Is like, you've been a leader in many different organizations, and I'd love to understand what you think makes a good leader.
So a good leader, there's lots of different types of leaders. I think in my career, a good leader is one who understands their people. My philosophy has always been serve your people. So I subscribe to servant leadership. Not everybody does, but I think that if you can take care of your team, then your team will take care of you and take care of your clients, your customers. And when you do that, then you're guaranteed success.
And you say, like, when you serve your people, they'll serve you. Mm-hmm. How do you develop that relationship? Because I feel like when you're in the managerial role, you have so many things to look at and focus on, whether that's your own task, because I'm sure you have your own projects, but then you're also doing one step beyond and making sure everyone else is on task. And then you have to foster growth. You have to do a lot of different things. How did you do it then?
Well, actually, I was just talking to a friend about this yesterday. I've worked in big companies, small companies. Now I'm working in volunteer capacity. One of the things that I focused on was get your process down first, document your processes, and then train people to work within those processes. So have a good process, put good people in those processes. And when you do that, the results will follow. And when I say serve your people those good processes.
Yeah.
And if a process breaks, fix the process, but don't immediately turn to, if we have a bad result, that it's a person's fault. 9 times out of 10, it's not a people problem, it's a process problem. And I've found that a lot of times when you go with that philosophy, people tend to realize you're not placing blame on your team.
Yeah.
And your team is more likely to come to you and say, I have a problem, rather than trying to hide it. And that fosters a culture of trust.
Yeah. And that's a really cool, like, ownership aspect that I think is lost a lot. And it sounds like you've had mixed experiences throughout your career. And I love to start from the beginning, because I'd like to think experiences kind of shape the person you are, especially when you talk about those processes later on and what makes either good ones, what kind of how you foster different people. And I love to kind of start, like, how did you get into this space, especially into business development? And what did you learn along the way to kind of shape that person that you are today?
So how far back do you want to go?
Oh, we can go as far back as you want.
All right. Well,
let's start with university. How about that? Let's start with graduate degree. Did you stick with it? Did you switch to something different? And then let's go from there.
All right. Well, undergrad was math and chemistry. Yep. Way back. And then
I have to ask real quick. Were you a geometry person or an algebra person? I find there's always two people. It's never correlating the both. I was very much calculus and algebra.
Yep, I'm with
Geometry made
you.
no
Algebra,
sense.
calculus, differential equations, but not geometry.
There's something about like, I don't know if you remember proofs where it's like, oh, side angle side at 60. Yeah, that made no sense to me.
Yes, I loved calculus. I hated geometry. My husband's he loves geometry, and we used to go to dinner at a steakhouse back in Pennsylvania where they had the butcher paper on the table, and he used to try to get me to draw the isometric drawings.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, no way. I did not enjoy that at all.
I'm assuming he's an engineer now.
You got it.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
No, I don't enjoy that. But I did like math and chemistry.
Yeah.
And always thought I was just going to go into the chemistry field, be a scientist. But my first job out of college was actually in the quality field.
What is quality field for people who don't know?
Verifying that the product that's produced meets the specifications. So design engineers design a product, can be anything, could be a table, it could be a microwave, could be a car. And the quality team, whether it's a quality engineer, is verifying that what you say it is what it is. So that's the simplest way I can say it.
So it ties in chemistry and math a little bit in terms of like the quality aspects. Was that the only thing that was available when you were looking, or was it the only thing that was really interesting to you?
That was I guess it was the job that was available to me in the geographic area that I was looking. And that was the first job that I applied for that was available that I accepted. So for me, it wasn't like I had gone to med school and said, I'm going to be a doctor. And that kind of started to take me down a certain path. I worked in an inspection group. So I inspected parts, made sure they met specification. And then from there, I went into the role was called customer quality liaison, which meant that whenever we produced parts, sent them to the customer, and they didn't work, they came back, and it was my job to figure out why, which was a great role for me because I love puzzles.
Yeah.
I've always loved puzzles, any kind, crossword, word search, logic puzzles. And so this was natural fit for me because I like to figure out why things didn't work. So these products would come back, and it would be my job to research what happened. Was it the customer's fault? Was it our fault? Was it a design flaw, a process flaw? And I would work with our team to understand what happened and then figure out the root cause and put a corrective action in place to make sure it didn't happen again. And then I would write a letter to the customer explaining that analysis and our corrective action.
Did you find that a lot of people, or the customer, maybe they accidentally did something the wrong way and then send it back like, hey, there's an issue here? Or did you find more that the product that you guys sent had an issue with it initially?
I would say that it was probably 80-20. So the Pareto principle, 80% of the time it was our fault. So my company's fault, where we had made a mistake. And the mistake varied across the board. Sometimes it was a process issue. Sometimes it happened in transit, so we packaged it incorrectly.
Never would have thought about that, of transit, for sure.
And 20% of the time it was something the customer did. Now, later in my career, when I went to work for another company, that Pareto principle came into effect again, and it was 80% customer issues, 20% the company's fault.
So it can be totally opposite. That's an interesting dynamic then to think about.
But one thing that came to light for me, I carried this role through a couple different companies where I did this research on what's causing the problems. And this Pareto principle came up quite often, and it happens in our lives too. 80% of our time is spent on 20% of our interests. 80% of our wealth comes from 20% of our investments. And so I really started to take an interest in learning more about this Pareto principle. Another funny story I'll tell you is that very early in my career, probably about the time that I was your age, I once told one of my favorite managers of all time that I came up with a really interesting theory. I now know that I didn't invent it, but I thought I did. So I was doing a root cause analysis, and I kept asking myself, why? So I realized that the more of these investigations I did, if I asked myself why, about 5 times, I would get to the root cause. Mm-hmm. So on a Friday evening, I ran upstairs to my manager's office, and he was a very, really nice man, very brilliant.
Yeah.
And I said, Ed, I really have to show you something. I've been, writing down why like 5 times, and I always get to the answer. I think I've come up with this theory. And he smiled at me, and then he turned around and he grabbed a book from his bookshelf, and he had this whole library in his office, and he said, do you mean this 5 why theory? My face turned beet red, and I said, yep, that would be it. Too bad I didn't know about that book.
Yeah, we'll give you the credit, and then the book just took your idea.
Yeah, too bad I didn't know that the book existed, because I was like, oh, I have this great idea. So,
well, when you were an undergrad, did you know that something like a quality engineer existed?
I had no idea.
Because it just sounds totally new, and like when I think about engineers or anything along those fields, I think of, oh, civil engineer, like you're probably in like transportation and you're learning to like build bridges and stuff like that. Or you're in like, I almost want to say like product design. Yep. And so when I think about like quality and making sure everything like works properly and stuff, it just totally sounds like a different world. Like when you were finding this opportunity, were you just kind of like, oh, never heard of this before, let me do some research and go from there?
The way I found it was actually I had done an internship at a company called Lord Corporation, which has now been acquired by Parker Hannifin. And I worked in the process engineering group.
Oh, cool.
And when I graduated, I applied back at Lord Corporation. They didn't have any openings, but the former HR manager was working for another small company. And I reconnected with him. Nice. He was at an electronics company at the time. And so I sent my resume to him, and he said, I don't have any process engineering roles, but I have a quality engineering role. So networking is key.
And, I hear a lot of this phrase of, and I'd love to know if you think it's true. It's like 10% what you know, 90% who you know. Would you say that's pretty accurate when it comes to maybe your first job, maybe versus like your second or third? Because I think it's harder to get your foot in the door, but once it's in, then maybe transferring to different places is easy.
I think it's accurate, but I'm going to say I also think it's a bit unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because many times there are so many people that have a wealth of knowledge, a ton of skill, but if they don't have the luxury of connections, we lose out on people with all of this talent.
Yeah.
And just because they don't have access to the right people, we never get the benefit of their skills. So, for example, I grew up in a very small town, 1 traffic light. It blinked most of the time. And if I had never had that internship opportunity in this company, I would have never connected with the right people. So it was just
crazy to think about.
It was, like the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
If I hadn't taken that summer internship opportunity that I got because my mom worked at this company, and they just so happened to open this summer internship opportunity, and I was blessed to get it, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Which is just absolutely crazy to think about, that it's just little things like that. Like most people I've talked to on the show, it's very much they just met someone and they got them to XY opportunity. Like Justin Reclefs, he was a recent person on the show, and he talked about when he was at Mizzou that he worked pretty much as a volunteer for this football stadium, and he was in this church group, met one of the people when they had an event, and he's like, hey, I got an opportunity for you to actually like make some money in the Mizzou football world. And so it's just crazy how connections like that, for people that don't have many connections, you know, you didn't have many, how do you foster that? Because I do think it's really hard to put yourself out there. How do you stay confident? How do you foster that kind of growth? And how do you connect with others to help kind of find out what you want to do?
I think in today's world, one of the ways that we have access to people is through social media. You know, we have LinkedIn, we have Instagram.
Yeah.
Those are some great ways. Even if you're introverted, you can do a lot, even with faceless posts. So putting yourself out there on LinkedIn, you know, you can do blog posts. And I think that's a great way to showcase your talents. And even if you don't want to write your own post, you can comment on someone else's post. I know when I was at Duke for my MBA, we had discussion boards. And discussion boards may not be very popular today because a lot of people just use AI, and there's like, it's ChatGPT talking to ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, if you see a post on LinkedIn today and it resonates with you, comment on it. Because your comment may be seen by somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's enough to get you recognized. And don't worry about whether somebody says, oh, that's just AI talking to AI. Put yourself out there, because it may be the one thing that gets you recognized.
You know what's funny about LinkedIn is I think about Instagram and many other social media apps, and I think about, oh, people will comment like 100 times or whatever on like maybe a more famous person's post. But on LinkedIn, if you get a lot of those scholars, they might only get like 5 comments. So I can almost guarantee that they might be looking at yours. So I think that's actually a great point of advice there, is to like leverage those spaces and use LinkedIn or many other things. And I know in LinkedIn, you can look up to different categories that you're interested in. So like if you just look up validation engineer, people in those career fields will actually pop up and you can look at their posts. So I think that's a great example. And you mentioned Duke, and I love to hear about when you decided to pursue your MBA. And was it always always a decision that you wanted to make, or was it something in your career path that pushed you more towards that route? Like, kind of what happened there?
So I didn't go for my MBA immediately after undergrad. I went back for my MBA in 2013, which was quite a while after undergrad. It was, you know, a midpoint in my career. I had done several things. I had been a quality manager. I had done business development, as you pointed out. I had pivoted from PA to North Carolina. And at this point in my career, I was working for Lord Corporation, and really the company had said to me, you know, we're willing to work with you on your executive MBA program. So this was a fairly easy decision for me. I was given a choice of, you know, what program I wanted to go into. So I got to research all of the global executive programs. Should probably back up. I was able to research executive programs. I elected to do the global executive program because I thought that it was the best program for what the company needed and what I needed to fill in gaps in my own career. And
sorry to cut you off, but what does global executive mean? Like, how come they wanted that route of things?
Well, global executive program, what it does is, it's, at least the program that I chose to go to at Duke, allows students to study abroad.
Very cool.
The Duke program, when I went to it, We did residencies in different cities around the world. And the Duke recruited students from global students, and you had to have at least 15 years of experience.
Oh, okay. So these are people well in their
These are
careers.
seasoned professionals. Again, this
Gotcha.
is when I went. So this was 2013, 2014, and it was a 16-month program.
Hmm.
And so it was not just learning from your professors, but it was also learning from your peers.
Yeah.
And the reason that I didn't choose just a daytime or a weekend or an evening MBA program was because, one, I thought it was important for me in the role that I was in at my company, which was serving a global marketplace, to visit the different countries, to learn the culture, to learn the way that people work in different companies, in different cultures, to learn from the citizens of those countries, to learn not just from professors, but from the other students.
Yeah.
And so it was a big investment. It was a big investment of time. It was a big investment financially for the company and for me. And it was one of the best decisions that I've ever made.
Yeah, because I know we talked beforehand of that you met a lot of great friends there
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. And in undergrad, or at least when I was an undergrad, a lot of people talked about studying abroad. Like, take the opportunity. You're probably going to have this might be a once in a lifetime. And so a lot of people I know that have done it, especially past teammates, they went to Prague and some other places and they absolutely loved it. One of my actually best friends went to Ireland to study abroad and he doesn't regret that decision at all. But it just gives you that new perspective on the way people work. And it sounds like Lord 2 is a more global company. So to hear about how other places operate and work, I'm sure gives you that much more of perspective when you bring it all back and be like, hey, I have this experience elsewhere. I know we're just one branch right here, but this is how it is kind of everywhere else. Did you find that was the case a lot? And if so, like, what did you learn from being in these different places?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Duke Global Executive Program, at the time that I went through it, we studied in St. Petersburg, Russia, Shanghai, China,
Oh my.
London. We were supposed to go to Bangkok, but we were not able to go there because of some political unrest at the time. We went to New Delhi, India, and we went to Dubai, as well as being in Durham on Duke's campus.
Like, once you're in the program, these are all, like, I guess, paid for trips, or do you have to pay for them separate?
No, you pay. Okay. You pay for your own travel.
Gotcha.
And these were 2-week residencies, 2 to 3 week residencies, if I remember correctly. But you were immersed in the culture, so you had some classroom time, but then there was also excursions into the cities or the regions where we were studying. So, for example, when we were in New Delhi, one of the things that we did was we toured the slums and we didn't provide medical treatment, but we observed others providing medical treatment in the slums. And then we visited one of their private hospitals to see how the different castes received healthcare. And that was very eye-opening for those of us that were from America, just to understand how healthcare is delivered in a different country.
Especially what we said, a caste system. That's interesting to think about too.
And that's something that, if you're born and raised in America, you may not have ever been exposed to something like that before. No. And how that translates to the business world is when you think about going into a business meeting and you're working with Indians or Germans or Russians, you have to be respectful of their culture. And so it's not just about let's get the deal done, but it is, how do I greet someone appropriately? how do I understand, do I offer my hand first? How do I present my business card? In some cultures, you present your business card, holding two hands, and, you are holding the business card with two hands. You present it.
Oh, so you have to research all this stuff beforehand.
And they accept it. And, as an American, we may accept a business card. We glance at it and we toss it on the table. In some cultures, that is extremely disrespectful. So you have to accept a business card, look at it, study it, comment on the contents of the business card, and then you place it in front of you where you can see it at all times.
Interesting.
And those are, to us, what might be perceived as trivial is extremely important in other cultures.
Yeah.
And I think those are some of the things that are really important and that I've carried with me, and I don't even think twice about now. I just know. I guess some other things that I don't know that I learned it in business school, but I've taken with me are lessons that I learned growing up. And that's, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Yeah.
And for me, there's a reason for that. And that's, we should listen twice as much as we speak.
100%. 100%.
And, one thing I did learn in business school is the smartest people in the room are often the quietest people in the room. And, the ones that are constantly talking and filling every available space, probably not the ones that should be talking the most.
No. It's crazy to think that you got to experience all of this. And I'd love to hear your perspective, because the company obviously pushed you towards this direction and getting the MBA and stuff. Is that what you would consider good management out of a company? And then also to supplement that is, what do you think makes a good company for you that you want to stick around with and foster that growth? Because you took that opportunity to do your MBA. You very well could have said, no, I kind of like where I am now, but you decided to keep going with it. And so I'd love to hear your perspective on those things.
So I think, any time that an individual gets an opportunity to develop themselves, take it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really a bad opportunity for developing yourself, whether it's an MBA or it's an online course that takes you 30 minutes. There's never a bad time to develop yourself in any capacity. And if your company's willing to invest in you, that's always a good sign.
Oh, yeah.
It's always a good sign if your company is willing to invest in you. But don't be afraid to invest in yourself too. And, if your company doesn't have the programs to, pay for an MBA, it doesn't mean that they don't care about you or that they don't want to invest in you. Some companies just don't do that anymore. So I think we all have to take it upon ourselves to invest in our own development.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily classify that companies as good or bad management.
Gotcha.
I think times are changing. What used to be, companies that were good, they had quarter century clubs. Like the company that I worked for the longest, portion of my career had a quarter century club, and there were, tons of people that were in that club. People went there and they never left.
Yeah.
Which is virtually unheard of today.
Yeah.
Now it's very common for people to work for a company for a few years and then say, the only way I'm going to increase my income is to skip to another company for a 15 to 20% increase, work there for a few years and then jump again. So I think times are just different today than they were 10 to 15 years ago.
Yeah. And I think COVID really shifted that impact.
It did.
Because now people want remote work versus all in person. And then I say it's more relaxed in terms of, hey, you can talk with your boss a little bit about the hours they want you on, but you could be like 7 to 3 versus everyone has to be like, you are 9 to 5. You cannot be late, you can go be after and before,
right.
but you are in that time. And
Right.
so it's just crazy how things have changed. And I love to understand that you bring up a point about how some people will be in a company for a few years at a time. I was wondering why that is. Like, my dad has been with the same company for 20 plus years, but that is almost unheard of, like you said now.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think it's because of the monetary value? Do you think a lot of it stems from the company culture? Or do you think it's just a culmination of a lot of different things?
I think there are a lot of variables, a lot of factors that lead into that now. I think you mentioned one is COVID, but um, I think one of the biggest reasons is that there's a new movement that has come about in the last probably 15 years, which is I don't even know if I want to call it a function, but it's operational excellence, which is another group that I've been part of
Yeah.
at my last two companies that I worked for. And that is a group that has been focused on how can we make organizations run faster, cheaper, run leaner. And on paper, that all sounds really good.
Yeah.
And from a noble cause, it is. But if you talk to the finance teams, they're looking at it going, this is great. we love the operational excellence team because you can really improve the bottom line of an organization. Mm-hmm. On paper, it looks great. But the part of my role that I did not like from that aspect was the impact it had on people. Because it does impact people that are around for a long time. Mm-hmm. It makes it really hard to stay in companies for a long time when you're just looking at the bottom line.
And is that more like, hey, I have someone that's been here for 20 plus years. They have these skills and are making this much. But this other person has somewhat similar skills, but we can foster them and they have a lower salary. And that just might be more beneficial to do that sense, to make more revenue for the company, I guess.
Well, there's flexible workforce too. You can bring a contractor in, you can bring a consultant. You have fractional people that are willing to work, part-time. You can bring people in just for a project and you don't have to pay them benefits. So companies are really creative now on how they can extract the same value for less money.
Wow. Yeah. But do contractors get paid more in a sense? Because they're hourly rate, correct?
Sometimes.
Oh, they can also be salary based, but just not make the benefit.
You can pay them by project or by hour.
Oh, that's gotcha. Huh. And I love to, kind of sidetrack too, is you got into this operational excellence, but you're an engineer at one point. So when was like the pivot point for you, and why did you choose going this more business development route?
So business development came about in 2009. That was my move from Pennsylvania to North Carolina.
Yeah.
And that was really a request from my former company. Got a phone call. We have a new role for you to try.
Yeah.
And will you come move south and do a new role? So that was the business development. It was more just will you do a different role within the company?
Yeah. And is that where you're like, gotta say yes?
Yeah. I mean,
why not?
I like trying new things. So basically within that company that I worked for, when I got a phone call, which came about every 2 years, we have a new role for you. Will you try it? My answer was always yes. Oh. Because it was a new opportunity, a new challenge. And I like challenges. As I mentioned before, I like puzzles. Yeah. I always looked at all the new roles. It's like a new puzzle, a new challenge to solve. And every time I said yes, good things happened. So
I think that's a really important lesson too for a lot of people, especially early on in their careers, just to say yes to the opportunity and then just let things kind of play out as they go. Because you're going to be where you're meant to be. It's just taking that time to really learn.
yes.
And that's what it sounds like for yourself, is that by just saying yes to a lot of opportunities, you are where you are today now.
And then for operational excellence, that one came about again through another networking opportunity. It was somebody that I had gone to a workshop with, had been a mentor in a workshop. And when I was looking for my next role, said, with all the different roles that you have held, because I had worked in pretty much every group, because I kept saying yes. Operational excellence really takes all of your general knowledge of all the different roles and puts it all together. Because when you work in operational excellence, you're essentially really good at mapping processes, listening to people, understanding where their pain points are, and then trying to help them remove pain points, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to serve people, help them make their lives easier. That's what I thought it was going to be, was operational excellence is going to be helping people make their lives easier. I never intended to eliminate their jobs. And when it became that, that's when I said, I'm done with that. I don't want to take jobs away from people.
That's a really hard position to be in, because you have no idea what people are dealing with.
Yes.
And did you find that as you moved up through a company, that role was becoming more and more, I guess, in your future, in a sense of, hey, I will have these crossroads where I have to do this?
Yes.
How hard was it? Because I feel like being a manager has both its positives and its negatives. The negatives are dealing with things like that, where you have to let people go and stuff. But the positives, you get to foster growth. How do you mentally, like, help yourself, or I shouldn't say help yourself, but how do you mentally prepare yourself for those kind of things? And how do you mentally be able to kind of like, I know I have to do this, but I'm fostering growth for the future?
So I think there's a couple things to consider. One, if you have to do a headcount reduction, you can mentally prepare for it if you have facts in front of you and you know that you're making decisions based on performance. If you are doing it based on facts, it's a lot easier to logically manage that. If it's not based on performance, it's based purely on numbers, not performance based, that's where it becomes very challenging. And so in those cases, what I have tried to do is find other options for the people that I've had to move. I try my best to find places for them to land so that they're not out cold. If I can't do that, then the way that I can sleep at night is knowing that I've done everything I possibly can. Think of it like a doctor that has to tell a family that they've lost a patient. The only way that doctor can look the patient's family in the eyes at the end is by knowing that they've done everything they possibly could do to save the patient. And that's the way that I can sleep at night, is if I've done everything I possibly can to save a person's job. And if I still can't save the job, but I've given it everything I can.
I gotcha. And how often did you find that you were transitioning people to new roles? Like, did you ever have someone that they had a lot of talent and you saw a really great future for them, just maybe this wasn't what they were intended to do?
Yeah, we're actually, a lot of times we are able to move your top talent into other roles. And what you end up doing is you end up reducing your lower talent people. So you performance manage out your lower talent and you retain your top talent and you just move them to the right roles. So you fit them into the better roles for them.
And is that like possible to do at a lot of different points, or is there always a head count that people have to follow, or you have to wait for an open role in that different group at all?
No, a lot of times what you can do is you restructure. So you can rewrite your job descriptions, move people to where they need to be. And a lot of times people do this for themselves too.
Yeah.
A lot of times people will realize I'm not in the right role, or my role feels redundant to someone else. So you can manage yourself. Mm-hmm. You don't have to wait for somebody to tell you, I'm doing the same job as the person next to me. And if you feel like you're bored at work, don't wait for somebody else to take action for you.
Yeah.
And that's the advice I would give to anyone. If you have a lot of spare time at work and you're bored, don't wait for someone to manage your career for you.
Yeah.
Take ownership of it yourself.
And, these are a lot of really good lessons that you're saying to people. And I love to hear, were there a lot of mentors along the way that helped you like find these different aspects or these different lessons? Or was it just through sheer experience that you've had, especially with traveling around and all that stuff, to kind of shape that identity?
I think, I consider a lot of my peers to be great mentors. We spent a lot of time traveling together. And when you travel with people, you really learn from each other. So a lot of my classmates at Duke, I consider friends, peers, and mentors. A lot of my coworkers throughout the years, I consider them mentors as well as friends.
Yeah.
Some of my best friends to this day, I look to them as mentors as well.
That's awesome. And what was probably the biggest lesson that you've learned from them? Or even a few lessons, if it's hard to pinpoint.
Well, one lesson I can tell you that I learned from the former CIO of NATO,
Manfred.
Yes, Manfred, a former guest of yours. Manfred and I were peers at Duke. He was one of my teammates, and one thing that Manfred taught me was to slow down and to not work quite as fast, because sometimes if you work so fast, you have to redo your work. And so Manfred and I worked at different paces. And so Manfred was a slower pace and I was a faster pace. And so sometimes I would say, come on, Manfred, go a little bit faster. And he would be like, slow down so you don't have to redo your work, because sometimes things will change along the way.
Yeah. And
I would be like, but if you get it done, then you have time to relax. And so what I learned from him was to pace myself. And I thought that was a really great lesson. And he also helped me in another way. And that was, I tend to think really quickly, and that can frustrate people because sometimes I'm thinking faster than other people.
Yeah.
And he helped me realize that I don't need to express that. Just slow down and wait.
Does that go back to where it's the listening aspect? Like you have 2 ears, one mouth. It's better to be the listener and like understand what's going to be going on. Yes. And that's really cool how it kind of all kind of comes together. And shout out to Manfred. He is so cool.
Yes. So that was one thing. Another, I think, key lesson that I learned very early in my career that I have repeated for 30 years now is that never say, we tried that before and it didn't work. Because business conditions can change. So even if you have tried something, it's okay to try it again.
Yeah.
Because it might work the second time or the third time. And don't be afraid of failing. because you can fail fast and then it might work again. So I learned that my very first job. I made a mistake in telling the team that worked for me, and I was younger than everybody that reported to me. And I wasn't trying to be arrogant. I just said, we tried that and it didn't work. And they said, well, can we just try again? And they were right. They were absolutely right. And what had happened was the situation around us had shifted a little bit. And that's all it took, was that little shift. And it worked. And so now whenever I have the urge to say, we already tried, I'm like, it's okay. Just go ahead and try it again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's true for a lot of us. Like, if you feel like you're failing, just give it another shot.
Yeah, I've had so many times at my job where something won't work, and all you have to do, I had to just restart my computer, because a lot of what I do is technology based, so technology can always be funny. Restart, did the exact same thing, worked, no idea why, but it just did. And so I think that's a really important lesson that you share there. And I'd love to ask you too, is it sounds like you did a lot of traveling. There was a lot of long hours, especially to move up quickly in your career and to get where you are today. What kind of things did you sacrifice and you look back on that you just look back on and just think, wow, I did a lot of this. I'm grateful for where I am today, but I had to sacrifice a lot.
Well, I think my daughter's 4th birthday party. So I definitely traveled a lot. I traveled 80% of the time for quite a while. And my daughter's 4th birthday party is definitely one of the classic stories. So I was in Germany for an acquisition for a good portion of one of her 3rd year, apparently. And she was at daycare. And this was, before FaceTime was really popular. But we still had things like, I don't remember if it was WhatsApp at that point, but her daycare was a home-based daycare with a husband and wife team that was like family to us. And at one point, they were messaging me and they said, we know you're coming home Saturday morning, and we think it's really important that you know that your daughter has drawn with crayons on paper all afternoon. And she has drawn maps from the daycare to our house, which was only a mile away from each other, but she drew crayon maps. And she wrote invitations and drew a map for all the daycare kids. And she's giving them out to all the parents. And she's inviting them all to your house for a party for her 4th birthday on the day that you get home from Germany. So you probably should know that people are coming to your house for her birthday party. So that's something that I didn't miss the party, but I missed the planning. And so my daughter got really good at being independent with me being gone. And my husband and my daughter got really close while I was away a lot, which was a great thing for the two of them. Sometimes I felt a little left out because I was gone so much, but I'm really proud of the way that they adapted and how they were able to get close to each other. And I love the fact that she was able to plan her own parties and be so independent. And then I also missed her 5th grade graduation because I was in Russia. And she did a speech at 5th grade graduation. So those are a few things that I missed. But again, I think me being gone allowed her to grow into a truly amazing and independent woman that if I had been here, she may not be the person that she is today.
Yeah. And what did you do during those times? To be like, this is all saw what it's meant to be. This is what's supposed to happen.
What did I do while I was gone?
Yeah, like what did you do? Was it mentally hard? How'd you kind of get through it mentally?
So I stayed really busy for graduation. I was able to like connect in virtually,
Mm-hmm.
and in terms of like mentally knowing that I was where I should be, I never really questioned that I was in the wrong place, because I've always felt like I have a purpose and that I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I'm being a good role model for my daughter, that I am um, earning money for my family, and that I am serving a purpose in the work that I'm doing, for the company.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always felt like if I'm a leader for my team, which 90% of my career I've been a leader in the company. I have been leading the team, and my team has respected the way that I lead them. Earlier this year, I was in Disney World and ran into one of my former teammates. And that person hasn't reported to me for 30 years. And we ran into each other, and it was like we had just, seen each other a week ago. And it was so nice to see her. And I took it as the biggest compliment, because she had worked with my husband and I both, and told us during that meeting that we were the two best managers that she had ever had.
That's awesome.
So I think, of all the work that I've done in my career, the biggest compliment is the people that I've worked with.
And so I gotta ask you two last questions. Is one, would I find that people who are successful, they struggle mentally when it's time to relax. And, when it's time to retire, then it's time to retire. And you kind of maybe find different hobbies. Why do you think people struggle that way? And how do you think they can kind of get out of that rut?
Well, you're asking a person that does not relax. I have no idea how to relax. So I don't know. Retirement, in my opinion, is horrible. I don't like it. If anybody has any suggestions on how to retire gracefully, please message me directly. I don't know how to do this.
But I think that's really important.
I think you know that, because you've heard me talk about this. So I don't know.
But I think that's kind of what I wanted to hear too, is that, even with someone as successful as you are, we don't have all the answers.
No, I have no idea.
And, I know it's been really hard right now, but I'm sure you look back on of all the things you've accomplished and everything that you've done, it's like, wow, I can't give myself a break and do all these things and hang out and do all that. And I know you're shaking your head, but like it is, I that's the answer I wanted to hear, is that it's okay to not know. And that is totally fine.
I have no idea.
And that is totally okay. And I guess I ask you one last question here is, would you do it all again?
Trying to think if there's anything I would change.
All good.
Pretty sure I would do everything again. I think the only thing I would change is I probably would not retire early.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I probably would just have kept working.
Yeah, I gotcha.
I think I retired too early.
Yeah.
If I could rewind that clock a little bit, I probably would have just kept working. And even when I was stressed out and thinking, this is not not worth it,
Yeah.
I would have just kept working and stayed in the rat race a little bit longer.
Do you think you would have done like part-time or something like that?
Nope. I probably would have actually increased my hours, or I probably would have just like changed roles.
Yeah.
And went for, like I said earlier, I would have asked for something harder, for like another challenge, a bigger puzzle to solve. I think that would have been better for me than to say, I'll do nothing.
I gotcha.
A bigger puzzle would have been better.
Yeah.
So if I could change anything, that's what I would change.
Well, I know that, doing everything you can right now, and I know that next opportunity will find you, and I can't thank you enough for being on the show today.
All right. Thank you, Drew.
Hey, everyone. Want to take a quick second and say thank you to whoever listened to the episode today. I really do appreciate it, and it means a lot. If you did like the episode, make sure to give it a like or 5-star rating depending on what platform you are listening to. And if you really want to support the show, check out our website or Patreon link below. Thank you, and I'll catch you in the next episode.